I am Nicole Adshead-Bell. I'm a chairman of Hot Chili. I'm not an executive of the company, but I'm stepping in today for our esteemed leader, Christian Easterday, who is based in Australia, and obviously making a journey from Australia for just a 2-day conference is a pretty expensive exercise, both in monetary value and also in time. So I hope I'm going to do it justice. I would say, though, that earlier today we had a breakfast presentation and it was incredibly well attended. I'm not sure if it was for the free food or for me, but I'm going with self-delusion and deciding it's for me. So here are our disclaimer and forward-looking statements. Read them at your leisure, particularly if you suffer from insomnia. So copper, if you are remaining in this audience, many of you aren't because you are probably gold and crypto and Bitcoin bugs, but copper is a critical metal. And in fact, I'm talking about this today and as a keynote presentation at 1 p.m. So if you want to come and hear my thoughts on copper, please rock up to that. So really the key thesis for copper is there is a material structural supply shortage that's looming. And it's looming over the next 3 to 4 years. And there is nothing that can rapidly fill that gap. So what happens in this kind of environment? Incentive prices of the underlying commodity must increase. And a good example of what incentive prices can do is the lithium sector, where we saw a 9-fold price increase to incentivize new supply coming online. This has to happen in the copper sector. So, and Hot Chili as a company is very, very well positioned to benefit from a sustained move in the copper price. So what is Hot Chili? We are a company that has our flagship asset base in low elevation Chile, a very substantial asset base, 2.8 million tonnes of copper and 2.6 million ounces of gold. We are a potential substantial producer of supplier of medium-term copper with plus 100,000 tonnes per year of copper in concentrate production profile and plus 70,000 ounces. Hot Chili's primary listing is on the TSX, with a secondary on the ASX in Australia, with a secondary listing on the TSXV and also on the OTC. Now, the reason the company acquired a listing in North America, and one of the reasons why I then joined the board and then became chairman last year, is that North America is a much more natural exchange for Hot Chili. If we look at our peer group, they are all North American listed. So we have a large existing asset base and we've got the potential for material growth with the recent acquisition of contiguous property portfolio that we spent many years negotiating for, and we have an active deal program underway as we speak. Quick touch on the corporate overview, relatively tight share structure, plus $11 million in cash, approximately at the end of the year. Our largest investor is Glencore. Now, Glencore is the third largest copper producer in the world. They invested at much higher prices than where we are today in 2021, and they own around 9.3% of the company. Now, concurrent with that investment, and this is very, very important, they received offtake rights for 60% of the concentrate production that will come from the Costa Fuego hub, but only for the first 8 years of the life of mine. So again, 60% for the first 8 years of the life of mine, and that is at benchmark pricing. So to maintain those rights, they need to maintain above 7.5% ownership in the company. So we achieved international large copper producer investing in the company, but didn't remove competitive advantage, because if this company gets acquired or competitive detention, then those rights to that production are removed. So this is where the Costa Fuego project copper hub is located. It is in low elevation Chile. Now, why this is important is there's lots of projects in Chile that are much, much higher elevation. Low elevation means that you have got a proximity to the coast. It reduces your transport costs. We also benefit from significant existing infrastructure advantages. So proximity to an existing port reduces our capex, existing roads. There's communities that are close but not living within the project, so that results in a smoother permitting profile. One thing that's really critical to point out is, unlike probably many juniors, is this company 10 years took a view that water would be an exogenous risk in Chile, and it has become an exogenous risk. And then they spent 7 years permitting seawater extraction and a right-of-way for a seawater pipeline. The ore is amenable to seawater use in the processing. So remove that exogenous water risk, which is rearing its head up not only in Chile but elsewhere in the world. Again, a very substantial resource base of plus 2.8 million tonnes of copper in M&I, most of the resources in M&I, and 2.6 million ounces of gold. Just to touch on the growth side of things, this is a short, very quick whiz through the company, is the company recently optioned from Antofagasta, another large copper producer, properties that are contiguous with the largest cluster of mineralisation in the Costa Fuego hub, and that is the Cortadero properties. Now, this new property is contiguous, it is along the same structural trend, and there is drill indicated or drill intersected porphyry copper gold mineralisation. The exploration team are very excited about this. It is low hanging fruit. It's within our general geological boundary, and we are actively drilling this as we speak. So where do we sit versus developers in the world? This is one of the few projects that has got substantial size, that is the ability to deliver plus 100,000 tonnes of copper production in a relatively near-term time frame, and perhaps most importantly is a very, very clean concentrate, which makes it very attractive to smelters, to refiners and potential other corporates. I have to talk about relative valuation. It's why we're here. Everybody says they're undervalued, but we are very, very undervalued. And partly that's because of, I think, a mismatch in the exchanges. So the company trades at the lowest valuation in this list. And this list is a list of those companies that have sizable copper projects, that are single asset companies, where those projects could be developed at some point in the next 5 to 6 to 7 years. And as you can see from here, Costa Fuego ranks as the most undervalued within that group, at 85 million US market cap and at less than just over 1 cent per US pound of copper equivalent. So to end, why we're here today and why should you be taking a look at Hot Chili? Number one, it has massive leverage to the copper price. If you believe in strong copper price movements, you want to be exposed to those companies that have a very, very sizable resource. So all copper companies, of course, will do well in a rising copper price environment, but we also have the potential for positive share price catalysts as we are actively drilling a highly prospective target that is contiguous with our existing property portfolio. What attracted me to investing and becoming chairman of Hot Chili, and I've been an active investor in the mining sector. I spent a large part of my career working for an investment fund that focuses on natural resources. And when I look at the investable universe, I look at really two key selection criteria. People. Do you have a fit-for-purpose management team that is capable of executing in a very, very challenging business? And that was the first element that attracted to me to this company, is a management team that has had staying power, that has the foresight to de-risk and add value over the long term in Chile. They have Chilean expertise at all levels of the company, on the board and in the senior management team. And as we know, local knowledge is paramount. Number two is project quality. Is it a project that's real? Is it a project that can be advanced through the development cycle? And from my perspective, it is. There's very, very few projects out there of any commodity that tick the size box, that tick the box of that they're in a location where you're not challenged by exogenous risk. And that is access, that is community challenges, that is water challenges, that is an ability to advance your project through the permitting timeline. And then thirdly, what attracted me to the company was on a relative valuation basis. It is very, very cheap. And so when you look at deeply undervalued opportunities, sometimes you have to be wary of a value trap. And as I look at this company, there was no fatal people flaws. There's no fatal technical flaws. I feel very, very positive about the commodity. And then on top of that, if the one thing that you have to fix is awareness and that dirty word promotion, well, that's a relatively easy thing to fix. And so from my perspective, it represented a number of quality, number of attributes as to what I look like when I actively invest in the sector. 8 seconds left. I'm done. Thank you very much.